Hey everyone, welcome back to whatever this is. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome back to more Pokemon stuff. And as usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Burner, or Coma Gamer.
Yo, what up? We we got sidetracked by Scott Pilgrim last time, and uh, it's a funny story about that, but we'll save that for another time. We're back with Pokemon after a long wait, so hey, here we are.
Yep, and this time we're going to be talking about Black and White. I'll be letting Burner take over the majority of the episode this time, since I barely have any recollection of what happened in Black and White. As far as it's in terms of what I remember, and I think Burner's memory serves him better than my own memory serves me. So you take it from here.
Oh boy, Black and White and Black and White 2. These were games, all right, and they were pretty good games. Um, I do actually have a lot of memories with Black and White 2. Less so the first game because I only played it a few times. I didn't actually finish it, but
It's the same here, but it won't really matter anyway, since Black and White and Black and White 2 aren't that much different. So the
yeah.
majority of the things that we'll remember will probably be, the same for the most part. And as far as Black and White 2 goes in comparison to Black and White 1, so again, it's not that big of a deal. The changes are pretty minuscule, other than like the story. I think the majority of these changes are like done to the story.
And I think like a couple of gym leaders, but even then, it's like not much.
Yeah, it's very minuscule. So I think we'll be able to do more than enough to compensate for it, or Burner rather, I should say, because again, I remember less than he does. But yeah. Anyways, as I've said before, feel free to take it away.
Okie dokie then. So let's start off with one of the biggest things of both contention and support from every single member of the Pokemon community towards Gen 5. The Pokemon roster. And it is the biggest one to date, with 155 new Pokemon added with all three events in Black and White 2.
Which is
That is,
insane.
yeah, it kind of is. So obviously, we have to have our favorites, don't we? Because Gen 5 just has a pretty spiffy collection of awesome Pokemon in it, and honestly, I think my vote for this generation has to go to Thundurus, because he served me very well when playing through or doing some stuff in X and Y, but we'll get to that later on because yeah, this is when Wi-Fi started being a thing. But yeah,
Yeah,
Thundurus is just a pretty cool Pokemon all around, and it's just I'm happy that he was introduced in this gen. He got introduced alongside his brethren, the other genies. That
hmm.
that, yeah. What would you say is your favorite Mirage?
I was actually gonna say, my vote would be White Kyurem, believe it or not. Out of all the things, it's very specific, I know, but White Kyurem, I had fond memories of White Kyurem. And out of all the things that got me into White Kyurem at first, silly as this sounds, I had a figure of White Kyurem that I really liked for some reason. I really liked his design, and I got myself a ROM of White 2, started playing it, and I just really liked White Kyurem from there on out. I don't know why.
Well,
It's
yeah,
really silly, I know, but
I wouldn't say it's pretty silly. It's very nice.
yeah, I guess you could say that. I guess you could say it's nice. I just think it's a very odd way to grow some sort of attachment to a specific Pokemon. It's a very minuscule way to get attached.
I did that with Apom, dude. You're fine.
You mean you have like a piece of merchandise for ape, like that was made of Apom?
Yeah, I had a Pokemon figure of it a long time ago, and I still like Apom a great deal to this day. So
Actually, come to think of it, the same goes. That's how I got like into Wobbuffet too. But instead of like a figure, it was a plushie. Anyways, I think we're getting a bit too sidetracked here. I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
I'm gonna let Burner you know
Uh,
Turn this around.
yeah. And turn it around we shall, because this is where the meat and potatoes of the show is going to be this time around. The story, because widely considered to be the best story of every Pokemon game ever by the majority of the Pokemon fan base, Gen 5 has a lot of recurring themes in it. It has the themes of liberation, of truth and ideals. And as a writer, it's very, it's not on the nose per se, but it's definitely subtle enough that it's a good story. I really like, just seeing the interactions play off. Like, I like seeing the gym leaders do more than just hang out in their gym. Like, they're just obstacles that don't really do a whole lot. Like, each of them has their own lives. They hang out, they patrol their town, they help protect the people in the Pokemon of their city, and they're just upstanding people. Because, like, you know,
Hmm.
leaders like Skyla operate like a plane company. Um, the Icer's gym leader, a bright wait, I forgot his name. Well, we'll just gonna call him the Icer's gym leader because I'm too lazy because he is kind of generic. Not gonna lie, but he actually has an upstanding movie career, and he hasn't. He's dropped his gym leader duties in Black and White 2 to join Pogstar Studios, but more on that later. But and yeah, it was just these little touches that made the world of Unova just a lot more alive. It felt like less of a generic Pokemon world and more like someplace that you could actually realistically live in. And that's good world building is something that I feel is not really explored a lot of Pokemon, and I'm happy that Black and White did that.
Yeah, I'd say that's good as well.
Also, people gotta stop hating on N. He's a great character, or should I say,
People,
a great antagonist.
wait, people hate on N? I didn't know about that.
Eh, people just, from what I know, people don't really like N a whole lot because he was just kind of the lone edgy thing. But I like N. I feel like his story arc is perfect for this game because, like,
Wait, did I have like any reason to hate on N though, or is it just like petty stuff that doesn't really make any sense?
I don't know, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure there are people who don't like N, and I'm not gonna say that they aren't justified in not liking him, and but I feel that N is one of the key components of making the story work because he's the one who goes through all the struggles. He's the one who becomes the new king of Team Plasma, which is the evil team in this game, and succeeds in getting the legendary Pokemon opposite of your version of the game. So if you're playing white version, he'll get Reshiram. If you're playing black version, he'll get Zekrom, blah 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 blah. But
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Huh?
yeah, and his his arc of learning to overcome, like, there are reasons to keep their humans with their Pokemon, and it's not instead of just liberating them out into the wild, and that's the whole idea of the original Team Plasma, and it's a bit skewed in one direction, which isn't exactly all that great, but I will definitely say, without giving a lot away, he he's essentially the best part of the story for me. I love seeing N, and he's great
Yeah, that's understandable.
because
Huh?
character development in a Pokemon game. Haven't seen that before this game, gonna be honest. Except
Or at
maybe
least not very much of it.
aside from like maybe Wally, but even then,
Doesn't? Nah, actually, that's silly. I was thinking, doesn't like characters like Cynthia have at least a little bit of character development?
maybe I don't know. I'm
Hmm.
not sure on that. I'd have to replay the Platinum again, which I'm not against doing 100%. Still a hair Pokemon game, but Black and White 2 are very close seconds for me.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of, let's go ahead, turn our gears a little bit more and talk more about the games in particular and what they introduced. And oh boy, Gen 5 introduced a lot. So, despite not having the national dex at the start, and you could only capture Unovan Pokemon throughout your journey through Black and White 1, I feel everything is balanced in the fact that, you're going to fall in love with a new roster of Pokemon without having to rely on old ones. And that's awesome. I really enjoy that. And, granted, Black and White 2 eventually, added the old Pokemon, and they eventually get added back in Black and White 1's post game, but even then, you would mostly be using Unova Pokemon, and that's something that I do like. But for region-wide gimmicks altogether, I know I'm hopping around the place, but it's gonna make sense in a little bit, I promise. But for region-wide stuff, for triple and rotation battles were introduced in this game. Triple battles would eventually go on to be a part of Gen 6, which is probably the most unused format in Smoggin, and that's why I didn't. And I'm pretty sure that's why it didn't even come back for Gen 7. So, but we'll get to that when we get to that gen. But and rotation battles are also introduced in this game, where you shift your Pokemon. Like, say if you have a Simisear, a Samurott, and a Simisage, you could swap your Samurott in front of you, and then have that one attack your uh, your opponent's Gigalith. That's as a sake of example. But your
Yeah.
opponent's Gigalith could swap to their Unfezant. So,
Hmm.
it introduces a nice level of strategy.
Yeah.
I hope I'm explaining this all that well, because it has been a little while since I played in a rotation battle, but
I think I can see your point. Yeah.
yeah. And triple battles, they're just double battles with another Pokemon. Only you can shift your Pokemon to the center so that you can hit all three at the same time. Really useful if you
Yeah.
have moves like Muddy Water and Surf.
Yeah.
Now, let us get into the unfortunate truth about Gen 5. It needed Wi-Fi connection to do a lot of the cool things that you could do with it back in the day, like the Dream World. The Dream World was a pretty cool idea, but you can't do it anymore because Wi-Fi connection's been dead ever since 2015, and I think it was 2015 or sometime sooner, but um, and you could put your Pokemon to sleep, and you get special Pokemon with particular abilities. Like, you could send your what's a good example? Uh, you could send your Ninetales in, and it could get Drought, which is its hidden ability. It made hidden abilities more accessible to a lot of other Pokemon, which is really awesome for competitive.
Yeah.
Because I know Gen 5 was all about Weather Wars, and as any False White Gaming episode will probably be able to tell you, Gen 5 competitive is quite a heated beast. That
Ooh. Oh yeah. Also, regarding events, I don't believe online events are entirely dead for the NDS for Pokemon. And I say this because of the fact that people have managed to find an exploit. This is a little off topic. An exploit that has something to do with their mobile phones, which I've tried myself. Uh,
hmm
and they've been able to bring back some of the old events that they couldn't do. I've been able to do this myself, which is the reason why I got my hands in stuff like the shiny dog trio, Suiku, Entei, and Raikou, um, and like Mew, Celebi, and some others. Oh, Arceus being another one. A lot, as well as some in completely inaccessible events, is like the Azure Flute, which again is very inaccessible because that event was never released publicly, as far as I'm aware, at least not outside of Japan.
I think it was only released in Japan, so
Yeah, so uh, I'm pretty sure you could do something like that again for Gen 5, but I don't know if this applies to the Dream World or any of the other crazy events. But I know this works for um, I know this works for gifts, like gift Pokemon that you'd receive, but I don't know if it works for any other events.
yeah.
Although I haven't bothered to do any research on that, and I don't really remember much else other than like the cool gift events. But anyways, sorry for going off topic there. I just wanted to mention that real quick.
Well, it's funny you mention that because it would be a nice segue into our next topic, the online, which again, it's dead, but I feel like because for me specifically, this is where I got into Pokemon through Wi-Fi battles because I eventually started playing through it, and yeah, this is when I had the most fun battling people online with a whole bunch of awesome Pokemon, and got to battle a bunch of friends, and yeah, this was certainly the Pokemon game where I eventually came to be a whole lot more social about it, and that can't be understated. I do enjoy myself a lot of good stuff in Gen 5, and the online was certainly attributed to that.
Yeah.
And they still battle in and Sword and Shield today, and just not as much as I usually do. Dynamax adventures are a bit of a thing that take up most of my time. If not Fire Emblem and the Chao Garden, but off topic. um,
Yeah.
but one quick, another quick thing to mention is that like this was the only Pokemon generation to include seasons, and I do not know why that it hasn't come back in another game. I don't get it. Like this was such a cool idea that helped flesh out Unova even more. Like you got 4 variations of the same maps, and it looks great. Fall time looks great. Winter time lets you access certain areas in certain cities. It's like summer had like nice, had nice instrumentation to it. In springtime, just it just felt pleasant.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked the whole concept behind the seasons and stuff, and I'll never really wrap my brain around why they removed it, because again, it has a lot of potential for being like a mainstay in future Pokemon games, and I can especially see it working in a game like something along the lines of Sword and Shield.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, seeing as how they never brought it back, they never brought it back after Pokemon Black and White and Black and White 2, they're never going to do anything with it again. It's unfortunate, but yeah.
which is pretty depressing. I'll be honest, because like Black and White added a whole lot more than a lot of people do seem to realize at first glance. And in my opinion, aside from X and Y, this alongside, or let me rephrase that, alongside Gen 4 and Gen 6, these were the most important Pokemon generations to both a lot of people and like the history of the series going forward. Gen 4 introduced the physical special split. Gen 5 introduced, modern mechanics and started tinkering with things more often. Gen 6 brought the series into 3D and introduced a Wi-Fi system that wasn't reliant on a particular server. And you know, if these were the biggest things, all and also fairy types, but even still, like these games are, these games are respected for what they've done to the series, and you know, whether or not you like them even today, it doesn't really matter because one thing that does need to be realized is that these games are important to any Pokemon fan, and if you can respect that, that's awesome. But even regardless of your opinion of the games. Because I know Gen 5 isn't the most popular one out there to a lot of people. Probably just a bunch of crazy Gen 1ers, but we don't shame. But yeah.
Whew. Yeah. There's so much stuff that they took out after Gen 5 was a thing. Oh, I really, I really want them to do a bunch of the cool stuff that they introduced in Gen 5 again,
Me
like
too.
the rotation battles, triple battles, seasons, all sorts of cool stuff. Also, I want to say this real quick. If there's one thing I do remember about Black and White, if it's not everything else, it was definitely the aesthetic it went for.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but there was something different about Black and White. I can't particularly put my finger on what made it so different, other than the fact that it had some sprite rotation thrown in. Uh, I know the HUD was different. It was very different from from like hard gold and silvers and diamond and pearl and platinums. It was also smaller too, I think, and they actually modeled more stuff out. Uh, like fun fact, like if you actually pay attention to certain things, they'd have the little platforms that the Pokemon stand on all modeled out instead of it being sprayed by hand, like how it was in Gen 4. I
Hmm,
liked that a lot. In fact, some of the attacks might even be modeled too, I think. Not all of them, though, but I think some of them might be modeled.
maybe.
Um, the majority of the stuff, the majority of the attacks in the game, if I recall, I'm pretty sure sprayed though, manually by hand. But yeah, I really like all the stuff that they did with like Gen 5. And it's probably aesthetically one of my favorite games, like Black and White. Granted, I will have to say that it has some of its downsides. While I don't like the fact that uh, I don't like the fact that it makes the sprites look messy during its sprite rotation and stuff with its animations for all the Pokemon. I can I think its overall presentation compensates for it. I
Hmm.
think its sprite quality and the fact that all the Pokemon themselves are actually animated, like they have actual idle animations as well. Whereas Pokemon in Gen 4 and earlier, they'd only have like an entrance animation, that'd be it, and all you'd be looking at is just a still sprite. But in Gen 5, they changed that, and all of the Pokemon would be animated like they're alive, and I find that to be cool. And each Pokemon animation, and every animation for each Pokemon is so good, and it like really does a good job conveying the kind of feel that they were going for with their designs. That's something else I've noticed with Gen 5, and I really like that. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Burner, if you want to take it from here again.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it, really. Like whether or not you like Black and White because of some of the Pokemon designs, or maybe you don't find the story all that interesting compared to its contemporaries. Like even still, Black and White has its fans, and we're a part of that group. In Black and White 2, both of them are great games. We wholeheartedly recommend both of them to any fan of any era, actually, because it is a nice transition to both to play classic Pokemon and modern Pokemon at the same time.
Yeah, although if you want my suggestion, though, I'd say you should probably play Black and White too if you can get your hands on it. Uh, Mainly because of the fact that there are some other changes, like the fact that you can get Black and White Kyurem, the fact that you can get non Unova Pokemon in that game right off the bat, as Burner said earlier, um, and maybe some other small things. But other than that, yeah, if not, then I'd recommend Black and White 1 because if I recall, I'm pretty sure Black and White 2 is very expensive nowadays, and it's very difficult to get your hands on, as I've seen people, charging more than $100 for it on eBay and Amazon, which is absolutely insane and just completely unjustified in my opinion. Other than the fact that maybe, oh yeah, it didn't sell well, and I mean, yeah, I guess it didn't, but that's still pretty scummy if you want my opinion. But whatever. It's not like there's anything you can really do about it. But yeah, I'm once again I'm gonna let Burner take it away.
Yeah, but yeah, even aside from all the things, like Black and White are still fantastic. Both of these games, both sets of games, I should say, are fantastic, and we wouldn't blame anyone for thinking of Gen 5 as their favorite generation, because Gen 5 is a very close second to me, I'll be honest, because they're both games are great, and
Hmm.
and I look forward to playing both of them again sometime in the future, and Black and White 1 to full completion, because that would be awesome.
Yeah,
But with that, I think that's about all the time that we had for today, don't we?
Yep, we essentially also covered as much as we could cover. I mean, there are probably some other small, minor things that we could go over, but I think we spent enough time talking about black and white.
Yep.
But yeah, if you all happen to enjoy this episode of the Saloon Podcast, please stay tuned for more, because we still have 3 more generations left to go of this Pokemon marathon of ours. But yeah, stay tuned, guys. We'll see ya.
Catch you later.
Mm-hmm.